What is Action Toga Peeps? Old Man Tub coming at you today with week 2 of the PPL Division 2 weekly recaps. And unfortunately, Mr. Juancito Marvel could not join us this week, but I have a former D2 coach who I actually took over a team for in Season 2. He is the one, the only, Chaos in the Sky.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. It's good to be back on the PPL channel, even if only for a short while. It's gonna be fun, man. I'm looking forward to going through these matches. We've had some really good battles this week.
All right, and it was definitely an interesting week this week. So let's dive right into our first match, and this was probably one of the largest creations of Salt this week, and we're going to get into the Harlem Gloomtrotters versus the Accrington Stantlers, and we're going to do a quick team rundown, and that's the Accrington Stantlers brought ROSERADE, TYRANITAR, EXCADRILL, CLEFABLE, ALAKAZAM, and CONKELDURR, while the Gloomtrotters brought Victini, Keldeo, Serena, Stunfisk, Aerodactyl, and Toxapex. Now, Chaos, would you like to give us a quick rundown of your highlights from this match?
Cool. It was one heck of a match. So the game started out, I believe Ellie accidentally had a wrong lead. She wanted to lead with T-Tar, but ended up leading with Conk against Victini. And she decides, you know what, got put in a bit of a back foot by getting the lead mix up. So she just went balls to the walls and went for T-Punch on the Victini. And it U-turns into Toxapex. And immediately Toxapex is down like 80% from a choice-banded T-Punch from Conk. So Kyle at the very beginning was not in a very good position. The battle goes for a little while with ROSERADE coming in to get some spikes up and Kyle doing some switching around to try and get back his momentum after the Toxapex fiasco. And it gets into, after a while, of CLEFABLE against Aerodactyl. And Aerodactyl goes for Stone Edge, and Clef has counter, and counters onto Aereo and gets it down really low. So Kyle decides, well, I'm going to have to go for my Z Fly now. And Ellie thought he was going to have the Z Steel move, and it ended up with Conk getting supersonic Sky Striked to absolute oblivion. And there was just no more of it. Game keeps going. Kyle gets a little bit of momentum back over that. And it comes to T-Tar against Victini. And Victini does the break. T-Tar has the Chopple to live it. T-Tar goes for Pursuit. Brings Victini to a little above half, I believe. And then a bit of pretty much the pivotal moment of the match where Kyle is trying to figure out what he wants to do, if he wants to break to try and kill, or if he wants to predict a switch or whatnot. He decides to predict the switch because he thinks Ellie needs to preserve her T-Tar. Ellie thinks differently, though, and goes for Pursuit as the Victini switches out, and there goes Victini and Kyle's only real way to deal with ROSERADE.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate, and that, like you said, that was the turning point of the match. It was all downhill from there, and there was nothing to come back. That one missed call, Kyle believed that Ellie was going to be bringing a highly offensive EXCADRILL, and that Ellie needed to preserve the sand to make EXCADRILL that premier threat for her team, and she was running an Assault Vest bulkier variant, which was more or less team support, and it just, the miscue Kyle had believing that the sand was more important, just there was no answer on his team for ROSERADE really after that, because ROSERADE pretty much came in on everything, even though it didn't have an answer for Serena because it had spikes, toxic spikes, Giga Drain, and
Synthesis, I think.
Yes, there was no Sludge Bomb, so there was no real answer to Serena, but it was able to just stay in and whittle down Kyle's team, and it was a real big problem from that point on.
Yeah, Kyle's only real chance was the Keldeo, but Icy Wind did less than 50. It was around 40%, I think, and ROSERADE had Giga Drain, so there was no way Keldeo could 1v1 it.
Correct. The match went on, and it was just a few interesting plays. Serena actually had rest talk, and it come to a point where Clef went for the counter while Zarina was asleep, went for sleep talk, and got the 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 chance and rolled with the trop kick and put it in a revengeable range, which pretty much sealed the deal for this match.
Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate for Kyle. Although, to be fair, at that point, there wasn't much that could be done anyways. He was... as soon as Victini went down and Keldeo was not able to 2-hit KO the ROSERADE, he was pretty much playing for differential at that point.
Yes, indeed. This match ended up with a 5-0 in the Stantlers' favor.
It was a 5-0, man.
So this was... Yeah. Disregard what the score says on the graphic. That is a slight mistake if I am reading it properly. But yeah, it was a 5-0. It honestly didn't feel like that by the time the match was over. But that was the score. And Ellie come out big. And that one read that Kyle misplayed really set the tone for the rest of the match. And Ellie comes out after being what I believe was a fairly bad loss week 1 and comes out and just storms Kyle. And she really showed that you don't need to apply the offensive pressure with the sand for it to change how people think about how you're going to perform in the match, and really can mess with people's heads. So I was really happy to see the sand offense, even though it wasn't used strictly offensively, be put to this good of use. And just having that on her team, in my opinion, put Kyle's mindset to the point where it got Ellie the victory.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she even really planned for it to be a mind game scenario, but that's what ended up happening, and that's usually the best kind of mind games.
Indeed. So, any final thoughts on this match? Any, aside from the wonderful Clefable set with counter and dazzling gleam?
Yeah, man. Who needs an extra 15 base power when you can predict your opponent to go into a double battle and have dazzling gleam instead?
Indeed. So, let's move on to our next bout, and that is going to be the Nidoqueens Park Rangers and their coach Ryquin against the Birmingham Spritzies and Onesie Bayonet. 2 0-1 teams facing off, and one of them was going to come out with a victory, and these teams matched up really well. The Nidoqueens Park Rangers had Liepard, Barbaracle, Piloswine, Celesteela, Azelf, Licky Licky, Tapu Koko, Mega Scizor, Hariyama, Silvally, Garchomp, and Alomomola. Did I not break between those teams?
No, you didn't, but I thought the Discord might have just cut out for me.
Okay. The second 6, starting with Tapu Koko, were the Birmingham Spritzies. Tapu Koko, Mega Scizor, Hariyama, Silvally, Garchomp, and Alomomola.
Alamala.
Yeah. And this was an interesting match. I mean, right from the lead matchup turn 1, this match was headed in Ryquin's favor. It started off with Licky Licky versus Hariyama. Ryquin predicted this lead matchup. He had it planned, prepped, and he executed this plan from turn 1. He had Licky Licky with enough investment to live a close combat with the Choppleberry. That's the right berry, right? And he lived the hit, retaliated with counter, and took out Hariyama turn 1 with, I think, like a 33%, 25% Licky Licky sitting there. And that was a huge turn of events because Hariyama was a huge threat to this team. So, turn 1, prediction, advantage Ryquin. The match plays on, and I mean, it's pretty much just Ryquin being one step ahead of Alex for pretty much the first half of this match. Alex has a few unfortunate misses with Nature's Madness. He misses a Fire Blast. Both important misses because they would have put things within range that he could have grabbed the momentum, but every time Alex tried to take a step forward, he'd miss and take 2 steps back. It come down to a critical point in this match where electric terrain was up and Piloswine was in, set up a curse in front of a Mega Scizor, was at a range, it knew it could live in a bullet punch, and with the electric terrain up, Raikou forgot the mechanic and clicked rest. And from what I understood, this match was quite interesting to listen to and call. And I think chaos was there. So why don't you elaborate on this a little bit for us?
It was... dude, it was so good because we got to listen. Alex and Rai were both in call. They had all of us muted, and it was like me and 5 other people, Shoddy Shroom. We were all there, and it was absolutely hilarious listening to... because they both got fairly confused at different points in this match. Before the electric terrain shenanigans happened, I believe at some point the Garchomp was in against Azelf, and Raikou expected to outspeed the Garchomp, and Onesie expected to be outsped by the Azelf, but then the Garchomp outsped the Azelf and brought it down to I don't remember what move it went for, but it brought it down to really low health with something. And, oh no, that was when he missed the Fire Blast. He missed the Fire Blast and outsped the Azelf, and then the Azelf U-turned, and both Rai and Alex were just absolutely bamboozled because Raikou had thought he speed tiered well enough to where he could easily outspeed what he thought the Garchomp speed tiering would be. And then Alex also thought that the Azelf, being like, it's like 115 base speed or something like that, being a fair bit faster naturally, would outspeed his Garchomp no matter what. But lo and behold, Alex, for some reason neither Alex nor Rai knows, had max speed Garchomp. And it just absolutely threw Raikou through a loop, and it threw Onesie through a loop as well. I'll never forget when we were listening to the battle. As soon as that turn happened, about 30 seconds of silence, and then Onesie just going, "I am so confused." It was hilarious. And then Raikou was his usual Raikou self when he went for rest, and he's like, "Yep, that's how the game works. I don't know why I just did that, but it was good."
Yeah, it was interesting. Raikou was really in the driver's seat until that point, and there was a few turns in a row where things happened, and it just, he lost it from that point on. He had enough speed I don't know if you mentioned this, I'm sorry. He had enough speed investment in the Celesteela to outspeed Mega Scizor, went for a Leech Seed, and went first, and Mega Scizor just U-turned out, and I mean, it was like 2-3 turns in a row. It just seemed like everything he did, just he couldn't grab the momentum, or he just had a brain fart and just forgot what was going on or what he had prepped.
I think the electric terrain might have fried his brain a little bit after that rest failed. But I also love that, once again, a second week in a row, Raikou brings... Sorry, something in my throat. But Raikou brings Barbaracle with setup and tries to set it with Barbaracle, and it does jack all again. Every week, it's just Shell Smash Barbaracle until he can say it works.
Yeah, that was... I mean, a last-ditch effort, which... admirable at best, but at the same point, I think it would have been just as easy for him to attack as opposed to try to set up. But he's going to keep bringing that. I think he's going to bring it until he actually gets a kill with it, so we may see that 11, 12 weeks in a row without it getting a kill. Yeah, aside from the early misplays, Alex really had a solid team this week. The Garchomp set was good, the Silvally set covered all the bases, and Mega Scizor was just a beast. So, the superior team building skills and remembering your speed tiers and your investments really helped and or hindered some coaches this week. It ended up being a 3-0 in the favor of the Spritzee. So, Spritzee seeing their first win this week. Any final thoughts on this match?
No, I think we about covered it as well as we need to. Raikou, please stop trying to make Barbaracle work.
Yes, please go with Minior. It's better. Anyways, let's drop right into the Rowlet Ramblers match. And this is the AS Rowlet, coached by Ashton Akai, versus the Pinecone Ramblers FC.
That's about how I pronounce it.
Coached by Potato Jim. And the Rowlet brought Infernape, Mew, GRANBULL, ROTOMW, FERROTHORN, and KOMALA, where the Pinecone Ramblers brought Zygarde 50% Snack Form, Mega Blastoise, Quilladin, that's right, Quilladin, Archeops, a man after my own heart bringing that, Jirachi, and Blaziken. Now, why don't you give us a rundown of what you thought were some of the highlights of this match?
All right, well, man, Eric brought a bulk team. I didn't realize until you read them all out, but that's a lot of fat mons. Anyways, the game starts off with Jim leading off with his Archeops, one of the OG fossils, by being one of the greatest of all time. And then Eric has ROTOMW, so it's a bit of a bad spot for Jim right out the gate. But he decides, much like Ellie did, to go a little bit balls to the wall and just get his rocks up right out the gate. And as he does, Rotom sets up Reflect, and immediately Jim, with all of the experience he has from being in like 8 leagues at a single time, realizes like he's got Reflect and Light Screen. There's got to be something on his team that wants to set up. He doesn't know what it is yet, but he's going to figure it out. So he then U-turns into Quilladin, and Rotom gets the slow Volt Switch. In comes Mew, and just as expected, it goes for Calm Mind. So immediately he finds the setup mon he was looking for. Quilladin thankfully has Super Fang, so it can still lower Mew a good bit with it. And after he gets it down to 50% and Mew gets its Calm Mind going, he brings in Jirachi to try and deal with it. And then Jim begins his best strat for stopping a Calm Mind Mew behind Reflect, which is the age-old general of flinch it until you can kill it. So he begins Iron Heading with Jirachi, and he gets 2 flinches, which brings it down to around 60% or so, I think it was. But the third time, unfortunately, Mew gets to roost off, but Reflect wears off. So, of course, my boy Eric knows he's got to get Mew out of there now. He's going to be taking too much damage. And he brings in Pharaoh, so Jirachi goes into Blaziken, which Jim brought Specs Blaziken, which I love, and throws out a Focus Blast that does like 50 to 60%, which was very, very nice. Battle goes for a little while with a good bit of switching around and both of them getting chip damage off. This takes a little bit of damage from EQ and whatnot. Tries and gets some damage back with Scalds on KOMALA. Unfortunately, can't burn that thing. Eric makes a really good play with having Protect on KOMALA and using it to scout out for Aura Sphere so he can try and better figure out the Mega Blastoise's set, which he does wonderfully, so he knows he has to, once again, get away. Blastoise burns the ROTOMW with Scald. Then Zygarde 50% comes up as Rotom sets up the Light Screen, and this is where Jim decides it's his turn to try and set up. So he goes for Coil as GRANBULL gets in, so he gets intimidated. He's at +1 defense, which was the main thing he wanted, and he manages to keep neutral attack. So Jim eventually decides, like, it's not my time yet, so I need to try and get a little bit of... I need to kill some stuff and get some more chips. So instead of trying to continue to set up on GRANBULL, he goes for 1,000 Arrows. GRANBULL just barely manages to live and gets off a Play Rough that does, like, 35%. So puts Jim in a bit of a rough spot. Zygarde's around... somewhere around there already. And he does manage to kill the GRANBULL, and Mew comes in. Jim knows he can't take special attacks, and it's a Calm Mind Mew, so he decides to save it again and goes into his only option for Mew, which is flinching it. So he does bring it in and then decides to U-turn instead, thinking, there's no way Eric will stay in. But Eric does, and he Earth Powers the incoming Blaziken and brings it down to 7 HP. So that roughly cripples the Blaziken, unfortunately. So Jim tried to get a read that would give him some momentum, but it didn't quite work out in his favor. Eric managed to turn it back around on him. Then comes in and right on Mew's I believe it's Mew's signature Z move, that Genesis attack, whatever it's called, that just blows away the Stoice. So that unfortunately is gone, and it's back to Jirachi flinching.
Yeah.
But Mew manages to get off a roost, and Pharaoh comes in, and at this point, Jim is basically, he's in a bit of a bad spot. His only real option left is to try and set up with his Zygarde. And so he goes into it against the Jirachi, thinking this is his best opportunity to set up. Starts going for coils. Pharaoh knocks off the leftover, so he's got no recovery outside of rest. Jim goes for second coil. I feel like he should have gone for a third one after, but he was worried about, and he said the same in his video, but he was worried about crits and whatnot. So he does decide to just go for the rest and then start sleep talking. Unfortunately, gets 2 rests in a row. Who comes in and weakens it a bit with Psychic, and then he takes out the Mew. Then basically the final play of the match, Infernape comes in, and Jim is terrified. He thinks it's HPI, so he feels there's no other reason it would come in. He banded close combat, and he switches into Jirachi, and Jirachi dies there, and that's roughly the end. There's no good opportunity for Zygarde to set up at this point, and with FERROTHORN still alive, Archeops can't really do anything to try and win the game back, and it just goes from there until the rest of Jim's team goes down to a combination of Infernape and FERROTHORN.
Yeah, that was a pretty good breakdown. Some of the things I have written down: Mew setting up a Calm Mind turn 3, ballsy. That's really early, and there hadn't been a lot of damage done yet. I mean, granted, it's Mew, and it can do what it wants because it's Mew. But this is one of 2 matches we're going to see early setup for. So I thought that was a little interesting, a little early, but I mean, it worked out. When it was Zygarde versus the Mew, I believe the second time, Mew went for Psychic once, got Special Defense drop that turn, which put a lot of pressure on the Zygarde. And I think that was another reason that Jim got so nervous when the Infernape came in. Because even if it wasn't HP Ice, at -1 Special Defense, even with bulk investment, I think he was at range that a few attacks might have been able to do him in. If he was expecting special Focus Blast at that point from Blaziken, or not Blaziken, they both had the fire fighting starters in this match. Infernape, I'm going to say well enough would have been able to take it out, but I'm sure HP Ice was in his mind because, you know, super effective moves. But the bluff of the Ape at the end, without that play, the match is over, and Zygarde wins. Because had he not brought it in when he brought it in, and that was just masterful strategy, it scared out the win condition of the match and completely turned the match over because all of the momentum was on the Rambler's side before that single moment in the match. And actually being able to bluff that Ape was just, woof, bow down to this man, because you don't see that happen very often and it work. Any final thoughts for this match?
Not really. You were right about the, I did have that in my notes, but I read over it as I was recapping the match. But you were right. He did have that Spit F drop, and that did play into his thought process. But it was most definitely like a bit of a next level Infernape that really worked out in Eric's favor. Very well done by him.
Yeah. Yep, so Eric gets... Was this a 3-0 victory? I have written down it was a 2-0 victory. Wasn't it just Infernape and FERROTHORN at the end?
No, I think the Rotom Wash and the GRANBULL both lived, I'm pretty sure. I don't think the GRANBULL died. No, GRANBULL did it. Yeah. Okay. I have written right here, Zygarde kills GRANBULL. I think the thing is wrong. I'm pretty sure it's a 2-0 win.
Okay. So we have KOMALA, FERROTHORN, and Infernape on the graphic. I don't know. I have written down a 2-0. I could be completely mistaken. It is completely possible KOMALA lived that match.
I was reading the Pokemon's differentials backwards. I was reading their kills and thought it was their lives instead.
All right, but anyways,
I think KOMALA lived, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so 3-0 in the favor of the Rowlets. We're gonna move on to the wonderful match that happened between the PARASCT GERMAIN and the Portland Timbers. The PARASCT GERMAIN, coached by Shroomraver, this week brought TERRAKION, ZAPDOS, SALAZZLE, NECROZMA, MAMOSWINE, and MAWILE. Portland Timbers, coached by RTK, brought Nidoqueen, Tapu Fini, Dragonite, Arcanine, Porygon 2, and Thunderous Incarnate, the Cloud Man himself. And this match was pretty decent for about 25 to 33% of the match. Good, clean play. And then it turns into a Shroomraver match. Nidoqueen fell really early in this match, and I thought that RTK did his team a disservice with Shroom having a shown volt-switching ZAPDOS, letting Queen go down when it did, really freed up Shroom to just roost defog. Well, he never actually defogged, but to roost Volt Switch at his leisure when he wasn't taunted by the Tapu Fini on switch-ins. But some big misses this match, some really big misses this match. And if you want to know how big they were, watch Shroom's side because he points them out in finite detail. Mostly them being TERRAKION Stone Edge misses. An early Stone Edge miss on the Tapu Fini stopped it from getting within a range that NECROZMA could set up. Later Stone Edge miss on Dragonite, which would have killed the Dragonite. Dragonite was locked into Outrage. There was a Stone Edge miss that would have killed it, which allowed it to get off, I believe, a last Outrage, which I don't think killed TERRAKION, but it put Dragonite at a 2-turn Outrage. It got confused and was able to switch out where it should have just been dead. Fini got a Moonblast crit on MAMOSWINE, and that was really bad because every time Shroom, this was just like some of our other matches we've seen. Every time Shroom tried to get back in the momentum of the match and grab a hold, he'd miss a Stone Edge. He'd miss a Fire Blast. Or no, that was last match. He'd miss Stone Edges, and it completely killed everything he was doing. It robbed him of a kill on the Dragonite. It didn't get him within range, didn't put Fini in range of, I believe it was set up NECROZMA to come in on it. And the final nail in the coffin of this match, NECROZMA couldn't wait any longer, come in, was getting ready to set up in front of Fini, and Fini outsped NECROZMA, if I'm not mistaken, by just 1 or 2 points. And I don't know what RTK was specifically trying to outspeed with that investment, because I don't know that it was mentioned that I heard, and if it was, I apologize. But having just 1 or 2 points of speed, getting the taunt off, and being able to stop NECROZMA from subbing and or calm minding, just, it was, like I said, it was the final nail in the coffin of this match. And watching the end of this match after, I want to say, the second Stone Edge miss was just, it was painful on Shroom's side, because, like I said, he kept putting a good foot forward, and it just kept getting whipped right out from underneath him with unfortunate hacks. But RTK played his game. He kept the pressure on. And, I mean, hacks happens in Pokemon, and it's unfortunate. And RTK holds out to the end, plays his cards right, and he is able to rack up 3 kills with Fini this week and win 3-0 against the Germain. What were some things you thought were interesting about this match?
Oh man, where to begin? I also don't know exactly what Fini outsped the NECROZMA for. Fini is like base 6 higher in speed than NECROZMA, I believe, so I can only imagine that he specifically did a little bit of speed creeping for it in like a reverse speed creep, but I don't know that for sure. But it was so bad for Shroom. You know, you miss 1 Stone Edge and you think, you know, that's just like the Stone Edge cost. You got to miss at least 1 because that's what Stone Edge is. And so you just got to come back from it. But to miss 2 very pivotal ones that robbed him of very vital damage on the Fini, because I know that there was, I think, possibly even 2 occasions, maybe only 1, where Fini came in on Terrak, and because of the earlier miss, Terrak was unable to 2-hit KO, and it basically just, it forced Shroom to switch out when he should have just been able to kill the Fini and go about his day. And if Fini had been dead, like you said, NECROZMA would have been able to set up, and it could have been a whole different ballgame, because NECROZMA's setup would have been pretty potent. But unfortunately, it didn't work that way. As usual, Shroom just gets hacks to all heck. Makes some good plays with SALAZZLE pretty early on to get damage on D-Knight, and I believe he killed Nidoqueen with it, which I do also agree was a bit of a misplay on RTK's part, considering the ZAPDOS was still alive. It worked out in his favor in the end, but you can never know that for sure. The Mamo set was one thing I wanted to point out. It was a very nice Mamo set. Like, I watched both sides of the battle, and both Shroom and RTK had basically the same reaction to Mamo getting hit by, I believe it was Earth Power from Nidoqueen, which was, that does literally nothing. It was overall a good match up until that Hax really took hold on Shroom. The 2 Stone Edge misses were really, really unfortunate. I think he might have even missed a third one somewhere, but I can't remember. And then the NECROZMA, like you said, it was the final nail in the coffin. The fact that Feeny could outspeed NECROZMA and taunt it basically just made the NECROZMA set absolutely worthless, considering it was stored power over Psychic, which Shroom said he was regretting as soon as he saw that Feeny outsped him. But, you know, it was another Dave week. You know, he was doing really well. It was a really good game on his part. He played as well as he could, but the game itself just doesn't want him to win.
Yeah, that's the way it's starting to seem. But eventually luck is going to swing in Shroom's favor. It may be 3 seasons down the road, but it will happen. I think we pointed out the pivotal things of that match. Not much more to talk about. I do also want to compliment the Mamo set. I have been caught off guard by Assault Vest Mamo and how well it takes special hits. So seeing that wreck someone else's life didn't make me feel as bad as it did when it happened to me. But let's move on to the New Crystal United versus the Chicago Beware, and this was probably one of my more favorite matches to watch this week. 2 1-0 teams, so one was guaranteed to go to a 2-0 spot and one to a 1-1 spot. We have the New Crystal United, coached by the amazing Chi, who brought KYUREM-BLACK, FLORGES, KROOKODILE, EELEKTROSS, DELPHOX, and BULLDOR. That is right, a BULLDOR. Versus the Chicago Beware, coached by Toxic Gaming, aka Carson. And he brought Mega Charizard X, Scizor, Melodic, Decidueye, Gardevoir, who is a Z user, and Sneasel, who is also a Z user. This match started off pretty interestingly. Leads Scizor for the Beware versus the Eelektross for the New Crystal United. And turn 1, Scizor stays in. Interestingly enough, even though that, you know, the Eelektross is known for having ridiculous coverage and flamethrower, stays in, goes for a knockoff, and it works out for him because I think he went for what, Thunder Punch?
Yes, I believe Chi predicted the Scizor to switch because of the fire, like you said.
Yeah.
But Carson, again, another balls to the wall lead matchup. You get the wrong lead, you just stay in this week, apparently.
Yeah. But knocks off the Assault Vest on Eelektross, and anytime you can knock an Assault Vest on Eelektross, it is 150% easier to deal with. And losing that turn 1, to me, put the New Crystal United on their back foot, because that means it couldn't switch into a lot of other hits. That doesn't deal with Melodic nearly as easily. It doesn't deal with Gardevoir as easily. I mean, obviously because they're special attackers, but it really set the tone for the rest of the match. I think it was turn 4. It ended up with Gardevoir in against Florges. And this was the other instance I had mentioned earlier of early game setup. Florges comes in and just sets up a Calm Mind. Turn 4. Nothing's dead. Nothing's gone. Minimal damage has been spread across the teams. And someone starts setting up. And it's like, you're setting up a Florges when you've done minimal damage to a Scizor who's going to come in and drop a Bullet Punch on your face. What are you thinking? But that was the plan, and surely enough, Scizor came in, and it turned into the Battle of the Berries. Scizor went for an Iron Head. It was a speedy-ish Scizor with agility. It did not set up the agility, went straight for the Iron Head. Florges had the Babiri Berry, hope I said that right, the Babiri Berry, did about 50%. Florges at plus, it was either +1 or +2, I don't remember. I want to say it was just +1.
I think he got a Calm Mind on guard and then got another one as the Sizz came in, so I think it was +2.
Okay. So, goes for the HP Fire. Scizor has the Aqua Berry, the Fire Weakening Berry. Takes about 50%, so they're both sitting at almost perfectly equal health. And you've got a Scizor which outspeeds, or I'm going to assume outspeeds because it outsped the first turn. Sitting in front of a Florges who doesn't have its berry anymore. The Iron Head did 50% with the berry. So 2 turns is set up. Flush down the toilet for losing your berry and popping the berry of a Scizor. Which is why generally early game setup doesn't really work out in your favor. It's usually wasted because even if you get that additional damage, it doesn't do much. I believe DELPHOX came in at this point, and this was an interesting DELPHOX set. Quite an interesting DELPHOX set. This DELPHOX was the Z user for the new Crustal United this week. Melodic comes in to soak up the Fire Blast or Flamethrower that was going to be hitting the Scizor. Takes a hit, gets Grass Knot, sees that it does just below half, and switches out into Charizard at this point. And at this point, DELPHOX, who's at, I want to say, was it 25% health right around here after the rocks and setting up a substitute or two? Melodic comes in, breaks a substitute, eats a Grass Knot, takes a switch out into Charizard after the substitute's broken, and I don't know if Carson knew this was coming or not, but I'm gonna pretend he did, and this was one of the most masterful plays of the match, even if it was on accident. He switched out into Charizard, who isn't Mega Evolved yet, and gets the Bloom Doom Z move, and it just tickles the toenails of this Charizard, and it did like 18% damage.
If
now,
that.
Yeah, I think that was the max roll possible he mentioned in the video it could have gotten. And, I mean, it did nothing to this Charizard. So, like I said, whether or not that was an intentional play, that was just so fantastic I couldn't not mention it. Charizard comes in, sets up a Dragon Dance. Krookodile comes in. Zard goes for the Flare Blitz, gets a ton of recoil, and combined with that and the Rocky Helmet, Zard goes down without a kill. Does a decent amount of damage, but Zard goes down doing what I would consider a minimal impact to the match outside of eating that Z move.
Taking that Bloom Doom was honestly all Charizard needed to do.
But us having Zardex in the same season on the same team, I grew to love it and understand how much damage that thing can just do to teams. Seeing it just put a dent in the Krookodile and then go down to recoil made me cry a little bit.
Yeah, a small part of me died inside.
Yeah. Later in the match, Decidueye come in. I do not remember exactly what this was against, but
it was against. Hold up, I'll find it in my notes. Decidueye. I think it came in on the Crook. No, it came in on the Crook. No, Milo kills the Crook. EELEKTROSS comes in. Oh wow, my notes are really far behind. I
skipped a lot. I don't write down a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is. I found it. The Decidueye does come in on Florges and sets up SD.
Yeah. Sets up an SD, and this was the entire point of having this Decidueye. It was specifically noted in the Beware commentary. Decidueye sets up a Swords Dance, Baton passes it into Scizor, and so we are at a +2 Scizor, who has Agility, but it hasn't popped it yet. And this is one of the probably most impressive parts of the match to me. Crook switches in, gets the Intimidate off, knocks Scizor down to +1, gets taken out. Boldor comes in. Now, Boldor, not Gigalith. Now, granted, it gets the boost from the Eviolite. Takes a +1 Iron Head from what I'm going to assume is a max attack Scizor. And kills it with a Stone Edge. And that was... I don't have anything written down after that because I was in awe of that point of the match. Like, Boldor comes in, eats an Iron Head, doesn't get flinched, lands a Stone Edge, and kills Scizor. Which is like, holy crap.
Not only that, but I didn't do the calc myself, but I watched Carson's side of this match, and I believe he said that he had calced it, and it had to have been at least somewhat attack invested for that Stone Edge to kill.
So that means that this Boldor wasn't even completely physically defensive, and ate that Iron Head at +1 from Scizor. Boldor, I will never doubt you again. But
this week, we've had someone bring Quilladin and someone else bring Boldor. What's up with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the low-tier picks shining through. I mean, who would ever expect a Boldor to get a kill on a Scizor? Not me. But it happened. The rest of that match, pretty much Sneasel cleaning up. And the match goes in the favor of the Beware 2-0. Anything else you'd like to add to this match?
No, you summed it up very well. That Bloom Doom was just, that was beautiful. I really wish Zardex could have done some more after that. Like you said, it was really unfortunate because I believe it was the season that, of D2 where I passed my team on to you that I had Zardex, if I'm not mistaken. So
It was.
It's a very good mon. I was really sad to see it go down, but, that Bloom Doom makes it all worth it. That was definitely the highlight of the match for me, although Boldor getting that Sizz kill is a close second. But it did come down really to the wire a bit at the end because KYUREM-B, one of like the premier threats in Pokemon in general, was what she had left as his last mon. And Sneasel gets a bit of Ice Shard damage for it, and then Gardevoir has to live a hit in Moonblast. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember, I think Decidueye was his last mon, and I think Kyurem might have been able to beat Decidueye one-on-one. I don't know for sure, but tank the fusion bolt at like 8 HP or something and takes it out with a Moonblast. So it was a very good and down to the wire match. Very nice.
Yes, this was a fantastic win. Great play on both sides. Not a lot of hacks.
I bet Shroom wishes he could have a match like that.
It showed. Both competitors played very well. So, I bet. Maybe one day. So let's move into our last and, in my opinion, the highlight match of the week with the West Chan United, coached by Unlawful Exile, versus the... We have the wrong team on the graphic. That is not the Melbourne Victory Star. That is the Live Wormhole FC. I do not know where that came from.
That's Melbourne Victory Star. Whose team is that? That's Better Jacks.
I'm gonna say that's a D1 team, isn't it?
Yeah, is Better Jack in D1 this season? I can't remember.
I think so. I think he got, what's it called when you go up? Relegated?
Relegated is when you go down. I think promoted is going up.
Promoted. Okay. All right, but yeah, I believe he's in D1 this week or season. So, flash in the pan for the Melbourne Victory Star, getting a mention in the D2 weekly recap. All right, but let's go with the Unlawful Exile West Chan United team. He brought HEATRAN, SALAMENCE, STARMIE, GOURGEIST, WEAVILE, and ELECTROSS. Where the Live Wormhole FC, coached by Richie 1500 or 1000, one of the two, brought Manaphy, Goodra, Donphan, Togetic, Mismagius, and Registeel. Now, what did you think of this matchup?
Oh, it was... You see, Liam is an awesome guy. I like Liam. And Richie is, like, the best person I know in my life. So when I saw that these two were battling, I was all kinds of excited. And they both have very good team setups. Some really good mons, personal favorites of mine, like Donphan and Registeel over on Richie's side. And then threats like Manaphy and Goodra and whatnot. And then Liam's got stuff like Salamence and Starmie and just heavy hitters on both sides of the WEAVILE, HEATRAN. I knew this was going to be a good match as soon as I got into it. But, shall I?
Nice.
All right, so we start off with, I believe it was STARMIE against Goudra for the lead. And again, I'm telling you, man, it's the theme this week. A little bit of balls to the wall. Liam stays in with STARMIE thinking there's nothing Goudra can really do to me, and goes for Scald, and he gets a burn as the Goudra reveals to be physical. If he had not gotten that early game burn, it could have really gone bad for Liam, because in comes Power Whip, which does, I believe, around 40, maybe 35% after the burn. So without that burn, Liam would have been in a bit of a rough spot. So now that he knows that he's burned the physical Goudra and Power Whip does less than half, and he has Recover, he decides, well, now I can just stay in indefinitely. And he accidentally clicks Rapid Spin instead of Recover. And his reasoning, and I quote, is, look, they're both the same color, they were next to each other on the buttons, and they both start with R. That was his excuse. And Rapid Spinning also got him a GUI drop, which will come into play, because he gets GUI dropped, and then he goes for Recover. I believe he goes for Recover the next turn as Miss Magius comes in, or something along those lines. And then Miss Magius outspeeds, which Liam didn't think would happen because he forgot that he got GUI'd, and then he loses his STARMIE like turn 3 or 4 to Shadow Ball. So note for the future, make sure that your Rapid Spin and your Recover moves are not next to each other on your button layout, because it could cost you. Comes in and immediately revenge kills the Magius. Richie decides to let it die. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see Richie's perspective, so I'm not sure what his thought process was there. But Magius goes down. Registeel comes in to try and T-Wave, but Liam, of course, doesn't want to leave in his Weavile, his fairly frail ice type, on the big bulky steel type. So he switches into Gourgeist, which is paralyzed, which is fine by Liam. You know, you don't really need Gourgeist to be that fast anyway. And then it immediately gets fully parried when Togetic comes in. As soon as he sees the Togetic in against the paralyzed Gourgeist, Liam knows what's happening. It's got to be Nasty Pass. Lo and behold, it goes for Nasty Plot as Liam switches into HEATRAN. So absolutely perfectly done. Richie goes for his Baton Pass immediately to get into something, and he realizes that he's faster than the HEATRAN. How could that happen? He's getting roared. Richie knows it. He goes into Donphan and lets Donphan get roared out because he wanted something else in instead. And he gets thrown into Manaphy. So very good by Richie there, seeing that he was going to get roared and going into a mon that he figured would be more optimal to get roared out of. Manaphy comes in and then goes for, I don't remember if it was Surf or Scald. He goes for some kind of water type move, which pops the Pasho Berry on HEATRAN, as it again roars and roars him into Togetic, who then batons into Donphan as HEATRAN sets up Rocks. So Rocks are up, not a good position for Richie. Richie goes for Head Smash with banded Donphan, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is the set of my dreams. But unfortunately, he misses the Head Smash onto HEATRAN, which was really unfortunate. So then Geist comes in, and it tries to Leech Seed the Donphan, but it gets fully parried. And then, so Manaphy comes in at that point and goes for Ice Beam, which pops Geist's Yache Berry, and it gets fully parried again. So the paralysis that Liam thought was most optimal on his Gourgeist ends up biting him a little bit later on. Salamence comes in after that and predicts that, I believe, and goes into Donphan. Wait a minute, where are my notes? Okay, sorry. Then Salamence gets a kill, but doesn't get Moxie. It wasn't Moxie this game, which Liam considered, but he didn't have. So when Richie sees that the Salamence is not Moxie, he's like, okay, well, I can use this opportunity to heal with my Togetic then, because his Togetic is around 50% at this time. But Richie forgets that Salamence gets Dragon Dance, or at least he didn't expect it to have it. So as the Togetic, which cannot touch Salamence because it's a Nasty Pass set, comes in, Salamence sets up 2 DDs, and then kills Togetic with Supersonic Sky Strike, I believe is the name of the Flying Z move, and annihilates a Togetic, an Eviolite defensive Togetic from full, which was beautiful. Unfortunately, however, without the Moxie boosts, Registeel comes in. Salamence is at low health at this point, and can't quite kill Registeel with, I believe it was Fire Fang, so Registeel kills it. Went out of there before it can get its sweep going. Then Evire comes in, takes out the Registeel. Goudra reveals itself to be mixed, and Draco's Weavile, but Weavile manages to live a role that I believe was in Richie's favor, just barely. It was on 2 HP or something like that, So WEAVILE gets to revenge Goodra and dies to Life Orb, and then it's a final bout against Evire and Manaphy. If the Manaphy is Scarfed or is an Electric Berry, Richie can pull out the win. Otherwise, Evire wins. And unfortunately, I don't remember what item Manaphy was. I don't think I checked, but it was not the items necessary, and Evire takes it out with a Wild Charge, resulting in a very narrow 1-0 victory for Liam.
Yeah, this match was just nuts from the beginning to the end. If I remember reading correctly in the aftermatch comments, the only way that the Manaphy was going to win was if it was I believe it's the Wakan Berry for Electric, because in the comments I read that they had discussed after the match that Evire actually had a higher speed investment to outpace the Manaphy, and the Manaphy wasn't as speedy. So it being Scarf guaranteed it outsped, and the only thing that would have won the end of the match was the Wakan Berry.
That sounds right.
But yeah, like you said, this match was just crazy. The gooey drop ended up coming in big on that match. There were a lot of misses. There was some hacks. There were some paras. Mence could have DD'd a third time, knowing it could live the Dazzling Gleam from the Togetic, even though it didn't. So that was unfortunate for him. The Weavile living a Draco Meteor from Goodra, I believe that it was said that it was about a 60% chance to kill, and the fact that it lived was just nutso. So that was crazy. Definitely the highlight match of the week, being a 1-0 victory for the West Chan United. This match was played masterfully by both sides. Both teams capitalized on the hacks they got, or were able to recover from the hacks that was brought against them. So both teams played fantastic, and this was definitely a great match to watch. Any last second comments you want to toss in on this?
No, I think we about covered it. It was a really good match. It was probably... I have a hard time choosing maybe between this and Rai against Alex, because that match was just so crazy. But that's probably because I listened to it in call. But I think this one was probably my personal match of the week. They were all good matches overall, but this was probably my favorite.
Okay. Let's jump into the Golden Pokeball Award. Now, this week, things changed up a little bit. We'll start from the bottom, work our way to the top. Number 10, representing the Chicago Bewares, we have Scizor with 2 kills, 1 death at a +1 differential. Number 9, KYUREM-BLACK, representing the New Crystal United, also at 2-1. At 8, we have HEATRAN, representing the West Chan United, also at 2-1, so technically a 3-way tie for 8th place. Number 7, we have Tapu Koko with the Birmingham Spritsies, sitting alone at the 7th spot with 3 kills, 1 death at a +2 differential. 6th place, and this is actually shared between 6th, 5th, and 4th, we have Tapu Bulu at 3-0 with the Live Wormhole FC. Kartana also at 3-0 with the Portland Timbers, and Hitmonlee with the West Chan United sitting at 3-0. Those are the ties for 4th place. In 3rd place, we have Zygarde Snake Form with 4 kills, 1 death at a +3 with the Pinecomb Ramblers. That could be sitting at number 1 had he not switched out this week and finished the sweep. And this also would have knocked down what's right above it at number 2, Infernape, 5 kills, 1 death at a +4 differential, representing the AS Rowlet. And number 1 for, I believe, the 2nd week in a row, Jolteon with 5 kills, 0 deaths with Chicago Beware. A lot of interesting mons.
Dude, seeing Jolteon at number 1 is honestly, it's above Kartana, Bulu, Koko, KYUREM-BLACK. That's honestly pretty nice to see.
We're definitely starting to see the more dominant mons take a step forward on the table this week. Last week there were a few more, I don't want to say novelty mons, but less common mons you see going for the Golden Pokeball Award. Interesting to see the strong competitors that have been around season after season start to step forward.
Yeah, normally in the first couple of weeks you get a little bit of it can be a little random in the Pokeball world because, you know, niche mons doing certain things that get sweeps and whatnot, but it's always nice.
Yeah. All right, and let's go to the league table and wrap this sucker up. Still sitting in 12th place, your friend and mine, Raiquin and the Nidoqueen's Park Rangers, 0-2 with a -7 differential. They're actually, if I'm not, I don't know how this works with the league, but the Harlem Gloomtrotters at 11 also 0-2 with a -7 differential. That is really going to start to get under Kyle's skin, and at some point he's just going to come out. I'm just waiting for it. He's just going to come out the gates and 6-0 somebody. I mean,
all of his pent-up rage. He's going to get hacked for like 5 weeks and just be like 0-6, and then like all of his matches after that he's going to 6-0 out of spite.
Yeah. But I'm sure Kyle will pick up his game. Coming in at 10, we have the PARASCT GERMAIN, 0-2 with a -4 differential. Poor Shroom, sitting with no wins after 2 Haxie matches, but he'll dust himself off and he's going to start getting some wins. Number 9, we have the Birmingham Spritzies with 1 win, 1 loss, and even differential. Also at 8, the AS Rowlet, 1-1 with an even differential. Both those teams having 9 kills, 9 deaths on their squads. We move on to number 7, which is the New Crystal United, 1-1. Also an even differential, 10 kills, 10 deaths on their team. Number 6 moved up this week, the Accrington Stantlers, 1-1, 8 kills, 7 deaths on the squad, 1 differential. At 5th place, we have the Pinecomb Ramblers, who slid down a little bit. 1 win, 1 loss, 9 kills, 8 deaths on the team, also at a +1 differential. The Live Wormpool FC sitting in the same spot they did last week, number 4. 1 win, 1 loss, 11 kills, 9 deaths on the team, giving them a +2 differential. Moving up the ladder at number 3, the West Chan United, 2-0. The rest of the teams on the list are undefeated currently. 12-10, +2 differential. The Chicago Beware sliding up to that number 2 position. 2 wins, 0 losses, 12 kills, and 7 deaths, giving them a +5 differential. Number 1, the current leader in the league, the Portland Timbers, RTK all the way, all day. 2 wins, 0 losses, 12 kills, and 5 deaths, a +7 differential. So league table shaken up a little bit this week. Only 2 teams sitting in the same spot they did last week. The next opponents are listed on the league table. Any matchups next week you're looking forward to?
I am especially looking forward to RTK against Richie because they're both very good friends of mine. So I look forward to seeing how their match goes. If Richie can knock RTK out of that number 1 spot, or if he's going to be able to hold on to it. I think it could go either way, honestly. But they're all really good matchups. A lot of really, I mean, we have a lot of good battlers, and then Raiquin in this league. So I am really looking forward to seeing them all.
Zing. Yes, Amelo for that burn, Raiquin. Something I just noticed. Our 1st and 4th place team are playing, and our 2nd and 3rd place team, maybe. Nope, I screwed
that's going to
that
be
up.
good.
Okay. Yeah, that was bad. I was admiring some team matchups, and I got confused. The Portland Timbers, our number 1 team, do play our number 4 team with the Live Wormpool FC. So that'll be an interesting match. One I'm looking forward to seeing, which is why I got confused, is the Chicago Bewares versus the Accrington Stantlers.
That will definitely be a good one.
I really think that Ellie's going to get this sand offense and the sand usage on this team up to par. She showed how well she can use it against Kyle this week. and I think it's going to be a fantastic match with the Chicago Beware.
I don't think there's really a match that I'm not looking forward to seeing, to be honest with you. They're all going to be pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, another matchup of the winless teams, the Harlem Gloomtrotters and the PARASCT GERMAIN, will be playing next week. So we will finally see either Shroom or Kyle pull out a victory, unless they draw. Let's not discount that possibility.
Yeah.
But one of them will finally get the taste of victory this season, and then there's just Raikkonen, who will probably remain at the bottom.
I can't wait to see Kyle against Shroom. I can only assume that it's not really a battle of who can outplay the other, but who can get hacks the least.
Yeah, if I was either of them, I would put T-Wave on every single Mon.
T-Wave, Scald, all the flinching moves, just whatever you can to optimize hacks potential.
Yep. So, I think that just about wraps it up. Any final comments you'd like to toss out there?
I think we've covered it very well. I would like to thank you for letting me take over Juan's spot this week. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you very much for filling in last second. I'm sure the fans appreciate it even more than I do, because who wants to listen to an old man ramble on by himself about how he plays Pokemon when he should be talking about how others play Pokemon? So thank you for sparing our fans.
Dude, you underestimate the internet's want to watch old men play children's games.
Oh, true that. But for Chaos in the Sky, I am Old Man Tup. This has been the Week 2 recap. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace.
Farewell.